Hello, welcome to my podcast, A Launch to Success. I'm Vera. I'm a full-time content creator and social media coach, and today I'm joined by Maureen. I'm so excited for this episode, who is a content creation coach. So listen to the end to learn how rejection therapy will help you change your life, how to actually do it properly, and no, it is not going in stores and screaming to get attention, how to start taking action, and what kind of mindset you need to have to build a successful life and business.
Three, two, one. Launch to Success with Vera V.
Hi Maureen, welcome to my podcast, Launch to Success. I'm so excited to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'd love to. Hi, my name is Maureen Evelyn, and I'm a content creation coach similar to what Vera does. And we found each other on Instagram, so we're really excited to chat with everyone today.
And the story of how we met too, because I saw your TikTok about rejection therapy like a while back. And then I kept seeing your thing, so I was like, I think I followed you on Instagram or I DM'd you there. I was like, I think you're so cool, you should be on the podcast. And then what'd you say?
Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, it's crazy that Vera messaged me because I had been following you, Vera, for I think probably about 6 months. I found you actually on TikTok when you were just starting TikTok, and I watched the TikTok videos, and since I do a lot of TikTok coaching, I was like, how is this girl so good at TikTok? She's like just starting. And then I looked you up on Instagram and realized you have a huge audience. And it was crazy because like I could tell that off the TikTok, even though you had like just beginning on TikTok. So when I saw you on Instagram, I was like, no way. So then I followed you on both platforms. And then, a few months later, you messaged me and then we made that connection. And I was like, that's wild.
That's so cool. And I feel like we're so similar in so many ways too. Like how we operate, like our mindset, aggressive mindset, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we're so similar. Like it was so funny because people will comment on my videos, like, you look like the Gen V girl. And I was like, who the heck is the Gen V girl? So then I Googled it and then I figured out that was you and I had followed you. So I was like, okay, that's ironic. And then since we started connecting, I'm like, yeah, like our mindsets, like they're so similar and we have similar pathways. So I think it's crazy.
Yeah. So first and foremost, let's talk about your rejection therapy, because I feel like that's where we gained a lot of audience from, like a lot of traction. That's how I found you originally, that very first video. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So for everyone that hasn't seen that video, basically the premise of that video is 2 years ago, I was terrified of rejection. I was like, I knew I wanted to build like this crazy successful life, but I didn't know how to do that. So I decided I would try to get myself rejected as many times as possible to get over my fear of rejection. So in that video, I explain the fact that I applied to Harvard as a joke to have a Legally Blonde moment. And then I ended up getting waitlisted and I went through the whole Harvard interview process. And I was like, okay, that's crazy. Getting waitlisted at Harvard, like did not expect that. So then I was like, okay, I need to keep trying to get rejected. So I applied for this like prominent marketing agency on the East Coast, and I just Googled like best marketing or best modeling agency on the East Coast, and I just applied because I was like, you can apply to anything. I mean, like there's not even that many like limitations to what you can and can't apply to. So I applied, I got rejected, and then I asked them the follow-up question of like, oh, why'd you reject me? And they said I looked too ethereal, and I'm like, perfect. Like, I don't even view that as a rejection. And then I just kept moving on. Then I applied for a 9-to-5 job that mandated you had a college degree, and I didn't have a college degree because I thought I could just fast track my success directly into the cubicle lifestyle. And then they offered me the job at $40,000 at the age of 18. And that was part of the video that everyone was like commenting on. They're like, how the heck are you getting this job offer? Like, that's crazy. And then I talked to the fact that I was walking around this town and I thought, okay, I haven't been rejected yet today. I need to try to get rejected. So I walked past this restaurant and these two guys were eating dinner outside. And I thought, it'd be weird is like if a stranger asked to sit down and eat dinner with you. So I went over to this restaurant. I ate dinner alone sitting at a table for like 3 minutes. But then I was like, okay, I need to get rejected today. So I like picked up my stuff. I marched over to these two guys eating dinner and I was like, this is going to sound so weird, but do you mind if I eat dinner with you? And I gave them no context. I didn't tell them I was trying to get rejected. And then these guys were like, yeah, we'd love that. And I ended up having a fascinating conversation with these guys about real estate and it was amazing. And then we went our separate ways afterwards. But like the more I tried to get rejected, obviously there were tons of times I did get rejected. Everyone was commenting on that video after, I think now it has over 20 million views, which is crazy. People were like,
whoa.
People are like, you never ever got rejected. And I'm like, okay, these were the highlights that I could fit in a 58-second video. But basically the premise of it is apply yourself, because you don't want to tell yourself no before someone else does. Like, don't tell yourself no before you even try.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately majority of times I feel like how it happens. Because it's always, I feel like everyone's just so in their mind, like including myself, 100%. I fall victim to this. But it's just kind of like you want to do something, you have this idea that kind of comes out of nowhere, and you're like, oh yeah, I really want it. But then you just start, oh no, you know what? No, I can't. I'm too whatever. I just can't do that. So I really love the concept of rejection therapy. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I love it because I know a lot of people, they do the rejection therapy that's like they'll run into a grocery store and start screaming. And I'm like, okay, maybe that helps you get over your fear of rejection, but that is not for me. Like, I like looking at define your absolute dream life in the craziest way possible. Like, I wrote down, oh, I want to live in a house. Like, I want to rent like a beautiful house at 18. And then I ended up doing that. I think I was 19 when I moved into I was 18 in my first apartment, and then I was 19 in my first house. But it's like, I never would have made enough money in my business to pay for a house if first I wasn't delusional enough to think that I can rent a 2-story house. So like, I love telling people, like, what does your dream life look like? Because if you don't have that written down, you're never going to be able to get there. I talk to so many people and they're like, oh, I want to be successful. And I'm like, amazing. What does success look like? And they're like, and it's like, they never get there because they have no idea where they want to get to. So I wrote down, be a model, go to Harvard, work a high-paying 9 to 5, live in and like, realistically, none of that could all happen at one time because I couldn't live in this area while going to Harvard, while doing. But I was like, that is my crazy definition of the dream life. And then I applied, and then I became a stronger person because now, like, rejection doesn't scare me nearly as much.
And with this also, a question always comes up. I think a lot of people, especially younger people, like it's kind of hard to figure out what it is that you truly want to do. Because I think especially with the rise of social media, I think it's such a great thing, but there's just so much out there. It's kind of like the people call it the dilemma of your 20s. Like, do you want to be a stay-at-home girlfriend, wife, whatever? Do you want to build a successful business empire? Do you want to work like a cute little marketing job? Like, what do you want to do? So how do you for yourself figure out what it is that you truly want to do?
I love the way you phrased that because I thought the same thing. I was like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to I want to be extremely successful. I want to wear my cute little dress pants and my pink heels to work. I want to make a ton of money, but I also want to stay home and like shop at farmers markets and do that whole social media thing. And then I was like, for me, the way I got clear on what I wanted is really writing it down first. And then I realized I could actually do all of that. So like, I could work from home, and like in the future, I will be able to stay home with kids because I work off my laptop coaching and because I use social media. But I think it really is like that decision paralysis of when you walk into an ice cream shop and there's 45 different flavors and you end up picking one, you don't feel as satisfied because you think there's other flavors. But what I did in my life is I just decided, when I was 18, okay, I'm going to launch my own business. I'm going to put all of my effort behind growing this following on social media, signing my first clients, and I'm going to push this so hard. And if this doesn't work, I will then switch career pathways or change directions. But I basically burnt all the other bridges and just went all in on this. And I think that's really important for people to do, because if you try 10% in every category, you're never going to succeed in any of them. So I always tell people, like, pick one direction. And this is what I did in my life. Give it 122% for an extended period of time, because then all of a sudden you actually make progress and it's actually fun. And I like the Alex Hormozy quote when he goes into like, you don't become good at something by just becoming good at, like, you have to put in the reps. And then the reps are annoying or they might be like overwhelming, but you begin to form this absolute love once you're good at something. But the only way to get good is to put in the reps.
And what amount of time would you say is a good, like a long-term amount of time to dedicate to something, but not too long to the point where you still have time to kind of not opt out of it, but transition it into something else?
I think for me, it was like giving myself 1 year. And initially I thought it was going to be a gap year from college. So I told myself, I'm going to take a gap year before I go to college. That's what I told my parents. That way they were okay with me, skipping college. But I knew at the end of that year, I probably was going to be able to make it in this business or make it in some way. That way I would never have to go to college. But I gave myself 1 year. But that 1 year, I think for most people, they might have to do 2 years, because for that 1 year, that was like 14 hours a day of like nonstop towards one goal. And it was a little extreme. And looking back, like now I would even tell myself if I were to switch pathways or try a different career, I would give myself at least 2 years where I'm working 10 hours a day towards the goal instead of like going so hard for 12 months where it's like almost to the point of like burnout. So I'd say like that would be the time frame, which is a super short time frame in the grand scheme of things. So many people are in a career for like 30 plus years, but I think in your 20s you do have that benefit of like you can make so much forward progress because life moves so fast at this stage, and you can take more risks because I don't have a family right now that like I have to provide for, that I'm like caring for. Like, if something goes wrong, it's only on me and it doesn't affect people around me at a huge extent.
And I really love that mentality of a year. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, 3 months is a good time frame. But I feel like in 3 months, you can only do so much. Like, I feel like the first 3 months of any project is you just kind of getting it to its feet. Like, barely. It's like you lifting it up a little bit. But then the true progress happens around like 6, 9 months probably. And then it picks up momentum after that and it snowballs if you approach it correctly.
Yeah, I agree. I love telling my clients like, oh, it's the snowball effect, like whether it's content creation or growing a business. And I totally feel you there because like, I guess like to give people some context, the first 3 months of my business, I did not make $1. And that's when I was living in a barn loft. And I was like, I got out of high school, I moved out, I was living in this barn loft, and like I worked so hard. Nothing happened in 3 months. And then month 4 hit, and I think I made like $2,000 to $3,000 in my business. And I was like, whoa, like I went from 0 to, 2 to 3K. And then like it was about 5 or 6 months in at 18 that I hit a $14,000 sales month, which with my business and with social media. And I was like, if I gave up at month 3, I would have for the rest of my life thought that I would be making $0 from social media. But it just took 2 to 3 months longer than $0 to do an over 10K month. And I was like, wow, it really does snowball, because there was no snowball at month 3. But then all of a sudden you step back and you're like, wow. But if I didn't keep pushing, I never would have known.
It's like the melting point. Atomic Habits talks about it a lot. I think about it all the time with the ice cube. It only melts at 32 Fahrenheit or like 0 Celsius. But all the degrees before that, thousands and hundreds of thousands of degrees, nothing. Absolutely nothing. But it has to get to that one point, and then obviously once you pass it, like it's a snowball effect from there.
I love that analogy too. And like also looking at like boiling water, like I feel like that was my business. It would not boil for 3 months. And I was like, I must not know how to cook. I'm going to starve. I'm not going to be able to make it in this business. And then all of a sudden it started boiling. The clients started pouring in. And all of a sudden I knew, like when I made my first $500 from social media, I knew I could make it work. Like for the rest of my life, I knew I could make an income, because it really is that first dollar or that first 100 that changes your life forever.
100%. And I think especially with social media, because you always see these results of people like, oh, my first month I made 0. The next month I made 27K. And then it was 156K. And it gets into crazy numbers, which if it works for them, that's great. But I feel like that's like 1% of people, even if that. And I feel like with people starting to post on social media, if they want to grow or like start making money off of it, a lot of people have such unrealistic expectations because they see that like highlights. So how would you say is a good way to deal with that?
Yeah, the first thing I always tell people is creation over consumption. Like when you spend so much time consuming content, and what's funny is the content that goes viral is always the content from content creation coaches that's like, I gained 20,000 followers overnight. Here's the 3-step process. And so your entire For You page is success stories. But what people don't realize is their For You page is the top, 10% of content on the internet, the top 3%. That is only the videos that are working. You're not seeing the 98% or whatever percentage of creators that got 2 likes. So like I always tell people, do not consume content, or consume extremely limited. Like I have so many apps on my phone that like block my social media usage. Even like when I'm like on a call with a client, I'm like, sorry, I can't pull up your Instagram. It's taken. But taking that out of it and like looking at it takes more work than you think. Even people see my growth on social media in the last month. Like I now have, like 34,000 followers on Instagram. And now all of a sudden everyone's DMing me like, how did you grow your Instagram so fast? And it's like, well, for the first 1.5 years, 2 years on my marketing page, I had 1,400 followers or less, right? and then gained like over 20,000 followers in 1 month. And I knew that was going to happen because I've started so many Instagram pages and grown them that I know that like it takes time for most people. Like one of my clients, Amy, she grew from 0 to 30,000 followers on Instagram. And like, I think she did that in like 30 days. It was wild, but that's not a majority of what happens. And I always like to tell people, until you post 100 videos online, do not even look at the views, the analytics, or anything. I've now posted over 1,300 TikTok videos. And anytime I start working with a client, they're like, I posted 10 TikToks, it got 100 views. And I'm like, it was my probably 1,320-second video that got 4 million views on TikTok and poured revenue into my business. But I was making 10K months without the virality. I always tell people it's a vanity metric. You don't need a ton of followers if you're really good at what you do.
Yeah, 100%. It's like this quote. I don't know where it came from, but the 80% of your results come from 20% or like 20%. I don't know what the quote is exactly. But points you just do a lot and kind of without seeing a return on it, like a return on your investment of time, energy, whatever, which is I think something very important for social media is not only have the external goal of like, oh, I want to hit 7K a month. Oh, I want to gain 7,000 followers. But having an internal tracker almost, like, are you tracking your consistency? Are you tracking your audience engagement? Because those are the metrics that you can't control.
100%. I love that approach. I always tell people like, just look at how many videos are you posting a day. That's the only metric I like tracking. Like even right now, like I'm literally tracking my goals for the next like week, and I have like, okay, this is my posting schedule, and I'm not writing down on this notebook like, oh, how many followers I'm growing. Like on my wall, I have my goals for like follower metrics I'm hitting, but that's what stays on the wall fairly far away from me. And what I have like up close on notebooks is going on the run, getting the videos posted. Whereas like mile times I'm trying to hit, I keep on a far away wall. And I know that my mile time gets faster every single month, but that's not the goal. The goal is to run, 40 miles in 40 days, or like the goal is the action. The goal isn't the output, because I'm never going to be able to control the output at the level I could control the action.
Yeah, and I feel like that result for any goal, like you think fitness, business, social media, absolutely anything, that result always comes as a byproduct. Like I think a good example of it is that when I was having a mentorship, it was like a group mentorship, and we had a challenge like for a week. That was really fun. The person who would post the most amount of content wins, obviously intentional, not just like doing it for the sake of doing it. And after that, like in one of my clients, it instilled a habit of creating super consistently. And then after that, the following week, she posted a video and she gained, I think, 15,000 followers from that one video, because it was like a perfect representation of her niche, like her account, absolutely everything. And it got her to where she is today, but it only came as a result. She was not focused on the followers or like making a viral video itself. It was the consistency aspect of putting your message out there. And obviously people resonate with that as more time goes on.
Yes. I love this story too, where they say that they gave like, I don't know what college they did this at or if it was a hypothetical, but they said, make the best piece of pottery ever to like half the students. And then the other half, they said, make as many pots as possible by the end of the year. And the students that had the most beautiful like pot singular by the end of the year was the person that, or the people that made the as many as possible. And then one of them was beautiful, versus trying to put all your eggs in one basket. It doesn't end up working. And I think people also look at content and they think it has to be perfect. And I tell people all the time, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get posted. Even now, I feel like my content's a mess. Like people come to me and they're like, wow, your aesthetics are beautiful. Like I love the way you edit. And I'm like, honestly, I knew I could make it 40% better, but I don't care. Like I just get it out there because like when I get on Zoom calls with clients, sometimes I sneeze, sometimes I make a spelling mistake. And I want my content to be the same way of like, sometimes I say a word and it slightly doesn't come out perfectly. And that's okay. And I post it anyway because it's not worth my 10 minutes to edit it out. Because at the end of the day, like we're imperfect. So you don't have to polish it at this insane level or film a Netflix style documentary, because honestly, just looking back, now my editing is so much better than when I started. It's ridiculous, the progress, but I never like focused on trying to make it better. It just happened with consistency.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to focus on for any goal, what it sounds like, is just showing up. Whether, like you said, for your running, just showing up to run, not focusing on like, oh, I want to run this fast, I want to do this, but just showing up. And everything else comes as a byproduct. And obviously, I think with showing up, especially on social media, like there's this one guy, I think I told you about him, but I did a podcast with him. He started getting followers after like 3 years to just
Wow.
posting the same thing over and over again, which I'm so happy for him because he's like growing a lot. Because that one video got 30 million views. Crazy.
Wow.
And also content was representative of that. I think there's smarter ways to go about it in a sense where you go for say a month, two, like content wise, and then you adjust to see how you can optimize it a little bit better. Because for me personally, like working smarter, not harder. I could not do the same thing over and over again and see no result. I feel like that would like throw me off. So a month, two, and then you adjust. But still, you still show up over and over and over again. And also with the showing up, I think a big thing of it is people think that they're only known if they have like likes, views, or follows or whatever. But truth be told, majority of people that know you, they may not even interact with your content. They may not even follow you, but they still like have you in the back of their mind somewhere.
I agree. Like I recently when I flew to LA for a creator event, like this girl like ran up to me outside and she was like, "Oh my goodness, like you're the founder of," and she mentioned the first business I started, Lilac Beauty, and she was like, "I recognize you from," and I was like, "What?" Like I barely had, I don't know, I had maybe 5,000 followers on Instagram for that first business, and that was from years ago, and she recognized me from that, and I think that's so true. Like there are so many creators that I know, but I don't follow them or I don't like their content or I don't leave a comment because, you know, you're on your phone and you see so many people. But I think it's important to realize that, like, even if you put out a very, like, the best piece of content, it might change someone's life. It might change their mindset, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna like it or they're going to comment. Like, so many times I run into people in public and they'll be like, "Wow, like I saw your story that was blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Really? Like I had no idea you existed because I've never seen your profile. They don't follow you." And it's like you're making a difference outside of the vanity metrics, the likes. Like it really just does come down to connection, and I love viewing it as like, even if you do get only 100 views, I like to put that in like quotations, like that's a lot of people, that's 100 people, that's amazing. Like I honestly think in 20 years from now it's going to be nearly impossible to like go viral or get views because there's going to be so many people that are creators then. And I do think we're in the opportunity of a lifetime to create content right now because we're in the beginning stages on so many of these platforms. And I think like, I don't know, 40 years from now, I think your Instagram login will be something you put in your will to potentially give to your children in the future and set them up financially for life. Because like, honestly, I could hand over my business tomorrow and it still brings in revenue through my membership or through digital products. And I don't think we realize the long-term implications of if you get on social media today and you start creating content, you're building something that will give you financial freedom and time freedom, potentially for the rest of your life, if not for multiple years, which is crazy.
I think it's such a good point. And I also like what you bring up about the vanity metrics, because I think always what it comes down to is impact versus the vanity metrics. Because there's so many videos that are viral and you see they have like 10 million views, but you're never going to think of it again. Versus some videos I saw, like I don't even know how many likes or views it had, but it stuck with me forever. And I genuinely think about those pieces of content at least once a day and I bring that up to everyone I know. I'm like, "Oh, have you seen this video? Like it really changed my life."
Yeah, for sure. And like, even when I was listening to your podcast, it's like, I don't know how many downloads that gets, but like, that's impacting me. Whether it has 2 downloads or 2 million, it's like, it still has such a positive impact on people. Like, whether the amount of views you have doesn't change the impact for the individual listening to it, it changes the amount of individuals. But like, even if I post a piece of content and it got 0 views, I would keep posting content because I think creating content is such an amazing form of self-improvement because it forces you to show up consistently, be more confident. It just changes so many areas of your life. And honestly, now I feel like my conversations with in-person people are better because I know how to structure stories in a way that are optimized for engagement. Like I can put out a 60-second story that is going to resonate because I've practiced so many times with what goes viral on YouTube.
I love that. That's so fun how to structure your stories. I feel like once you go the content creation route, no matter how deep you go into it, it really forever changes your brain chemistry. I think especially with consistency, but also with the confidence. because I always, like, after I finish like a mentorship or whatever, working with a client, we always obviously do a reflection, and always the thing that comes up all the time is confidence. Like, I feel so much more confident. It's reflected in every area of my life. But I think the not downside to confidence, but like the opposite of it is the fear of rejection. So you mentioned that you noticed that you were scared of getting rejected. What do you think was like an indicator or some indicators where you're like, you know what, this is kind of a thing that's holding me back?
I think like I'd say like a few years ago I was really sick with Lyme disease, and I just remember I walked into a grocery store and my hands are like shaking, and I'm just like looking around, I'm thinking like people are looking at me, people are judging me, and like at the time it's like, yes, I was really sick, but I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this like continue to cause me anxiety. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I need to get over this. So I just started like, okay, great. Like, I'm going to talk to someone at the grocery store when I'm picking up a smoothie for 3 seconds. And then you slowly increase your exposure to it. I think it was like in that year of my life when I was so sick, I realized this fear of rejection and this anxiety, I need to figure out a way to overcome this, because for my entire life I've been extroverted, but for that 1 year it like really set me back, and I was like, I need to do something to get back to my old self and make my old self even more confident. Like, even when I was healthy, I want to take that version of me and make it even better. So that's when I really decided to like buy a $4 notebook, write down my dream life, and try to get rejected. And I've never been someone that plays video games, but I do like viewing life like a video game of like, okay, how can I level up? In what areas do I need to level up? And then view them like points. I like viewing it like rejection points or confidence points. So when I was doing the rejection therapy, I had a notebook, and at the end of the day, I would check my box of, did I get a rejection point today? Did someone tell me no? Like, did I get rejected? And I would circle in that box and like view that as such a win. And then if that person accepted me, or if that opportunity accepted me, I would also write that down of like, so either way, whether someone says no or someone says yes, it's a win because you're making yourself a better person. And like, obviously I'm only asking for things that are like hopefully positive. Like, I'm trying to go after positive opportunities, which is why I think it was really helpful for confidence. But I think reframing it in a point system way of like, try to get rejected. Like, even with that rejection therapy video, the amount of people that left comments saying like, I reject this video is cringy, I hate your eyebrows, I hate the way you speak. I'm like, you know what? Honestly, I love that, because you guys are giving me free engagement. This is making the video reach more millions of people, which is great. So like, even that, like, I loved it. Like, I kind of view it like, you know what? You walk into that school cafeteria, and instead of worrying about what table you're going to sit at, you just don't care. You just march up, you just sit down. And if you're confident, you're going to be able to sit anywhere.
Yeah, I love that. I think the biggest thing that, and this is like, you speak from personal experience when I talk about this, but the biggest thing that stands in anyone's way is obviously themselves, but more importantly, it's just the importance that you attach to it. Because
Yes.
say you want to write a song, like for me right now, I'm working on my second song, and the first one I released like 2 years ago, it took me, I don't know, it just felt like there's this ginormous roadblock that could never allow me to get started, but it's just a song. So I think with the game point system, like thinking of it as a game, and either way, no matter which way it goes, it's still positive. It just makes it feel so light. Like, it's just like no one really cares. Like, you don't even care that much. Why are you stressing?
Yeah, and it like, I totally agree with you. It's such a game, and when you view it like that, you're not scared. Like, then when I walk up to someone and I ask them a question and they say no, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, because they have the option to like accept you at that opportunity or not. Or like, I was sending emails to all these like, you know, different magazines, like, oh, I want to like share a confidence story. Like, can I write a story for this magazine? And like, they didn't respond. And I'm like, great, let me follow up 5 times. And if they keep not responding, I write it into my journal as a confidence point. And I love that like you're writing a song too, because it's like, looking at that, that's making you a stronger person. And it's so much fun. Like, you can really build so many amazing things when you view life like a video game, or you view it like a board game. And it's just like a continual journey towards getting better. And even if someone says no, or even if you do get rejected, that's okay. Like, you're in the same place you started. I love reminding myself of that, of like, say you do ask that person out and they say no. Well, before you asked that person out, it was still a no, because you weren't dating that person, or you weren't running that business. Like, you're in the same place. Same thing with a business. Like, if I started this business and it did fail, so what? Because like before I started this business, I didn't have a business. And if I started this business and it didn't work, I would end with no business. I didn't lose anything other than maybe some time potentially.
But even I feel like with that time, it was still reinvested into something. Because I think rejection is always redirection. Because now
Yeah.
you've gained the skills, like hypothetically, if it were to fail, you've gained the skills that can help you succeed in another area. But I like what you said about you not like it being a no even before you started. If it ended up as a no, I
Yeah.
think it's such like a cool thing that really gets you out of your head. Because you just stop thinking about the outcome, and you're like, why don't I just go for it?
hmm I think it's really like just viewing life like action. And I love the book Essentialism because it's like when you take action towards one goal and you just continue to walk forward, your entire life will be different. Like for people listening, they won't be able to see like the hand movement, but basically I was reading this thing and I used to be addicted to self-improvement books. And they were saying that when you're doing research and you're planning, you're taking one right step forward. And people that continue to take a right step forward, again, they research, they read, they keep taking a right step forward. And all of a sudden you're walking in a circle because you're only taking a step with your right foot forward. And then there are other people who blindly take action with their left foot. And they take action and they take action, like they apply to work at this company, then they apply to work at that company, then they apply to work here, but they never like zoom out and plan or do self-improvement or look at where am I going. So then they end up walking in like a clockwise circle with their left foot going forward, right? So they're still spinning because they're not doing planning and research. And then I realized I was spinning in the way of continually self-improving, planning, self-improving. And when I say self-improving, I was literally just reading self-improvement books and not implementing. I was just researching, planning, researching. So I was walking in this circle, but then I decided, okay, I'm going to research and plan. So like, let's say, okay, great, I want to get into Harvard. I'm going to research how to do that. I'm going to plan how to do that. And then I'm going to take a left step forward and actually apply. And then I would research again, okay, modeling agency, apply. I would research, okay, I want to sign 10 clients. How am I going to start a coaching business? Research and then act. And then all of a sudden, you're taking steps forward. And I realize people fall into one of two categories of they're either researching too much or they're taking too much action without looking at it visually. Because there was also a phase in my life where I was just blindly taking action. Great, I'm going to apply to these 5 clubs. I'm going to do this. And I had all these things going, but I wasn't winning in any field at a high level because I was doing everything.
Wow. I've never heard about that of essentialism, but I really like that philosophy. I just looked it up too. But I think it's really cool. And it definitely, I think progress happens, like a lot of people put it as a chart, like a, but I think it's like a more of a spiral because you move like this and then you end up at base camp and then you go in a spiral again and then you end up in a whole new level. But it's never straightforward like that. Because I think with the people who research and plan too much, they're scared to act. People who just act, they just don't have like a thing in their mind to actually prepare for it. So it definitely goes both ways.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's like really when you view it like a spiral, and even a spiral that occasionally pauses, life gets so much better. Because I realize like even with income, like before I make an income leap in my business, there's always a lull. Like there's always a breathe. Like you have to take a deep breath, or the arrow analogy of you have to pull back the arrow and move a little bit backwards. Whether you're building the systems or you're editing heavily or you're scripting video ideas, that's all pulling the arrow back, and you're not making money off that, or you're not signing client, and you're not making forward motion. But the more you pull back, the more you plan, and the more work you put into that vessel that you're about to push forward, then when you let go, you make so much forward progress. And I used to, like, I know we both had our toxic productivity eras. Like I used to think that I could never pull back and I had to constantly run forward. And now I realize, like right now, this week, I've taken less Zoom calls this week than I have in the last 12 months. But next week, I know my sales are going to be ridiculous because I'm going to jump back in with such enthusiasm, and it's going to make my life better because I intentionally planned and I took that time to breathe and pull back the arrow.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point of kind of, because I think if you, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but like hustle culture, a lot of times you have like a feeling like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Oh, I'm not doing enough here, even though you know you're moving consistently. But it goes along for this anecdote. Actually, one of my clients told me this, and I've been thinking about it since. But it's, have you heard the one about the fisherman?
I don't, remind me of this one.
So-
I'd love to hear it again.
There's a fisherman at the lake or whatever. So he's fishing. He gets up early every morning to fish. He loves it. And then a businessman comes by and he's like, oh, like fisherman, how much fish do you catch a day? And the fisherman's like 10. And then the businessman asks, what do you do in your remainder of the time. And the fisherman's like, oh, I spend time with family. Like, I like drawing. I like sleeping in. Like, I like having a slower life. And then the businessman's like, okay, this is cool and all, but what you should do is save all that money that you make from fish, buy a boat so you can fish more, and then like end up building a whole empire. And then the fisherman's like, okay, I have an empire. What do I do like with the rest of my time? And the businessman's like, well, it's going to require a lot of commitment, but then afterwards, once you set yourself up, then you can spend more time with like your family, paint and sleep in and do whatever you want. And the fisherman's like, well, I'm already doing all of that now.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that analogy. Like, that is so spot on. I think it lines up perfectly with business too. Like, just the way I run my business, like I used to tell people, I want to be booked out with clients. I want to be so successful. And then like I was doing that. I was on 8 hours of Zoom calls every day. And I'm like, okay, this is fun, but this is ridiculous. And then I actually scaled back. And I'm still making amazing income, and honestly, more income than I used to be. And I'm taking less Zoom calls, like, and I have time to spend with family because I don't need a boat that's ridiculously tricked out. I don't need to be on Zoom calls 8 hours a day. I love that analogy.
Because of the like hustle culture aspect, and especially social media, I think that's what it always comes down to. Because in the past, it was what you read something in a book, you saw a movie, you heard one of your friends talk about something, okay. But now I feel like you just see so many lives and so many of those quick successes and people on private planes and boats, and they're making 6 million a year and they just started this year. And I feel like it really trips you out if you don't have like a solid path in place, which is what I like what you said about creation over consumption, especially for creators implementing that. Ideas are great and getting ideas is great, but the best ideas you're going to get come from you. It's not from you watching a video and being like, oh, I should recreate it ASAP.
Yeah, because when you're constantly copying other people, then you're going to build something you're not obsessed with. Like so many times people were telling me like, oh, you need to create content this way. This is what works. Like maybe it's the short Instagram reels with a long description. Like you should do that. That's what works now. And I told those people, I was like, I don't want to create Instagram content like that because I don't enjoy it. Like people used to tell me like, you should be creating swipe through carousel posts to drive more engagement, drive more customers. And I know I hate creating carousel posts. I still make them occasionally because they serve my audience, but I love talking videos, 60-second, simple talking videos. I throw in maybe one B-roll video of me at the gym, middle of the talking to keep it interesting, moving captions, and hit post. I could make 50 of those today, easy, but I could not make 50 carousel posts. So like instead of trying to mimic other people's styles, I just looked at what's my favorite style? And then you'll become the style. Like everyone rinses and repeats Alex Hormozy, but no one would do that if Alex Hormozy copied 52 other styles. Like he made his own thing. I made my own thing, which was this style of talking video, barely any editing. And that's that video that got 20 million views. It's me sitting at my desk. There's no editing. It's just me talking. It's my favorite length of just under a minute. That way I can repurpose it to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube because I have my content repurposing system set up. It's my favorite type of video. And then now people like me in that format. So now I get to create more of that format and people know me for that style of content. Because if you get in, going back to the boat analogy, if you get in a boat that you don't like rowing, you're not going to be able to row very far. But I love the style of content I create because it's unique to me. So I could row for years and I plan to row for years.
I love that. First of all, the longevity aspect of it, that goes for any goal too. I think obviously it comes with confidence, but confidence is an action. So if you show yourself that you can achieve goals, you'll have a lot more confidence in that. But kind of like having a mindset of no matter how, like I'm going to achieve this goal, like ride or die. I know for a fact I'm going to achieve it, just a matter of time. But also like you said, with your own unique style, I think this goes for life as well. Because I feel like there's just so much expectation almost, but it's self-imposed. Like it's not really coming from anyone. It's just you yourself of like, okay, in order to succeed, I need to do the 5-second Instagram reels with like the ginormous caption. But I hate writing captions. But I'm gonna do it because it's the quickest way to my success. But if you look at the prominent creators, and actually I saw a video of this one woman. She's like been published in like social media, books, best-selling author, whatever. Very credible. But she made like a talking Instagram reel that's like pretty slow. It has like pauses in between, which no one's used to seeing. But she's like, you know what? This is my style. And I recommend that you guys figure out your own style and just push through with it. Because if you end up copying, you just create like a repurposed version of somebody else versus pushing your own thing forward.
No, I totally agree with you. Like you need your own style. And if you're in the beginning stages and you don't know what your style is, throw spaghetti at a wall, post a talking video, post a B-roll video. Like even today, sometimes I'm not using my unique stat. I just throw up a random video that I just thought of today, and then it goes viral, or it doesn't go viral, and it doesn't matter because I love the process. And I love what you said of, you don't need to do this in 6 months. Like, I tell clients all the time, you are building something that will benefit you for the next several years. Like, anytime I feel like I should be moving faster or I haven't achieved enough success, I don't know why I think that, but occasionally I'm thinking that, I just remind myself that I'm in this for the 10-year goal. Even if for the next 9 years I don't move forward, I'm happy with the space I'm at now. But like, it's for the long term. It's not for today. Like, if I don't make $400 of passive income today, that's okay, because maybe I'll make that in 2 years, but I'm in it for the long game. And I think when you take yourself out of the moment, it makes those feelings so much more fun to play with too, because you know that like, it's not for this week. I'm building this for the 10-year goal or the 20-year goal or the 2-year goal. And that's what keeps me moving forward at such a fast pace. People are always shocked, like, okay, how are you moving that fast? How are you growing on all platforms? And it's like, honestly, because I don't care about the stats this week specifically. I know that I have my end of the year goal of like, hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and people are saying like, oh, that's crazy. I don't mind. Like, it's a game for me. It's Monopoly, right? I have that goal. If I don't hit that, I'll hit it in 2 years, but I just like setting it because it's fun to run towards.
That's so inspirational. I wish I could like frame this as a video, put this on my wall, like at my alarm. Every morning I wake up and just think of this. Wow. But it also really reminds me of this one book, Ikigai. Have you heard of it? It's like a famous Japanese philosophy.
Yeah.
But that one book, it talks about how it obviously did studies of people in because Japanese has the most amount of people who live past 100 years old, which is crazy. I want to live to like 111, so I was taking notes. But with them, one of the secrets was always their pace of life. It was always slower. Like, they'd get up early, they would tend to the garden, they had their community, they would eat right, but they did not really rush. Like, they just took things at their own pace. Which I feel like if you take a graph of one person, whatever it is that they're starting, their fitness journey, their business, I don't know, anything, who just tries to focus on those weekly analytics of like, oh, I need my videos to blow up now, and versus a person who has like you said, like a longer term vision in mind, eventually it's like the turtle and the rabbit. The turtle always is going to surpass, because it's more adjusted to you and to your speed and what else is going on in your life, because it's not realistic to set a goal for fitness and expect yourself to work out 4 hours a day. Like, you have other things to do. It's okay.
That's one of my other favorite analogies, is fitness to content. Like, it's so much better to work out for 20 minutes every single day for a year than 5 hours one day a week for a year. And I think like what's helped me through keeping the reps consistent is setting up some content automation, because like when you have a system where like I view that like my gym equipment of like, I know I film 3 TikTok videos, they're automatically downloaded, they're sent into my Google Drive folder. From Google Drive, I know I have 1,300 videos sitting in my Google Drive watermark free. So if I ever get banned on any platform, it does not bother me. Like, I've got the content, it's fully edited, it's sitting there. And then I just drag and drop it into like the Instagram Reels folder, the YouTube Shorts folder. And then like the last few months, we've been posting 60 YouTube Shorts a month. And it's so easy to do because I've got the content automation system set up. And I like viewing that as like my workout plan. Like, it's easy because I've got the system, like because I've got it written down of, we're going to post 60 YouTube Shorts. We're going to post 5 Reels a week or 4 Reels a week. And it's repurposed TikTok content. So like when you set up those systems or you have the automation in place, everything gets so much easier.
I hit my first
like the gym.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just opening up your YouTube channel because I was like, how many YouTube shorts? I have to take a look for myself. I was shook when you said that. 60?
Yeah.
Wow. If anyone needs a boost of like inspiration for showing up on social media, just go to Maureen's social media handles. Oh my god, this is incredible.
It's crazy because it doesn't have to be complicated. Like the YouTube short right now that brought in, I gained over 10,000 subscribers in the last 28 days on YouTube. It's been wild. And a majority of that was literally a repurposed TikTok video that I downloaded watermark free and hit post in about 2 seconds, just because I have the system set up. And so many people I talk to, they don't have a content repurposing system set up, and it's shocking to me. Like so many times, I'm just so thankful that I hired mentors in the past, because it's like, whether it's a business mentor or a content mentor, like when you hire someone that's at a stage slightly ahead of you, they can guide you through the process. Because it took me probably, well, at least 6 years to learn how to repurpose content at that level, how to get out that much consistently, whether it's like how I'm batching it in my content planning spreadsheets, how I'm formatting the scripts. But now that I have those frameworks, that's why I love working with my clients, because I can save them 6 years. You save your clients years of work as well, because you can give them, hey, this is the formula I use, this works. That way they don't have to be sitting in their kitchen with no recipe trying to make something that tastes good. Like I can be there to say, this is the recipe, here's the script I use, here's how I go viral on TikTok, this is what works, or not viral, because you don't need virality. Here's how you repurpose. And I really do think like hiring someone that is 3 steps ahead of you is the fastest way to accelerate success, but only hire that person if you like the lifestyle and you like their personality. Because so many times I think people will hire a business mentor and they don't actually like the way that business mentor is living their life, and you're going to become a little bit more like that person. So only hire someone if you want to get there. Like I've worked with so many mentors in the past where they're making over $100,000 a month from social media, but then realistically I had to ask myself, should I be working with the mentor that's making over $100,000 a month and stressed out, or the mentor that's making $100,000 a month and traveling the world? Like one of my mentors, that's what he's doing. And I love asking him questions because I know he is so fulfilled in his life and he has things figured out. So that's another thing, like I wish I could tell my younger self, of hire the expert if you're really committed to making this happen. Like I have a YouTube coach and he sends me voice messages in the morning with the video being like, hey, audit this strategy, because I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in that when I was first starting. Like now I know how to grow a YouTube channel past 10,000 subscribers, but in the beginning I asked for help. And I think asking for help to someone you look up to, or hiring that person and making that investment into yourself, is so transformational for long-term growth.
100%. That's so wise. I feel like everything you said, I just have to frame it. I'm going to be re-listening to this podcast like at least 2 times. And I feel like it's also a perfect segue. I have a new little podcast segment. I came up with it recently, but I call it the Successful 7. One of the questions you already answered, but they're rapid fire questions that I think can get the audience to know you a little bit better, like in a kind of more fast way. But also I think a lot of people make a lot of really cool discoveries from them. Okay, ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Question number 1. What's the first thing that you look forward to every morning?
Honestly,
whatever first comes to mind.
The second I wake up, I hop out of bed with so much enthusiasm just for the day alone, because I used to wake up and think, oh, geez, there's my alarm clock. Now I have my alarm clock set to be this beautiful music. So like the second I hear that, I just jump up and I'm like, I am so excited to work with clients. And I just rewired myself to think that, because in the past, I hated waking up to an alarm, and now I love it. So like, honestly, there's not one thing specifically other than I love hearing that peaceful music and I hop out of bed. It's not even funny. I'm like, sometimes I'll even wake up in the morning. This sounds delusional. I live alone, and I'll be like, wow, I'll say it verbally out loud. Wow, it is a beautiful day. And I'll say something that is so cheesy and so Hallmark, but it honestly makes me feel so good. Like I'll wake up and like the first 2 seconds, I'll be like, you know, like, because you hear the alarm, and then I'm like, nope, shut that off. And I'm like, wow, it is beautiful. The sunshine looks amazing. I'm sure some negative people will be like, why are you faking happiness? But even if you don't feel good, if you say that, you feel good. And then I have more of a jump to my step when I jump into Zoom calls.
I love that. I gotta start implementing this. Wow. Beautiful day.
I yell it sometimes too, because I'm just like, wow, it is beautiful outside. And then when it is raining, I have to come up with something else to say, because I can't say that I hate rain. So I'm like, wow, these sheets feel so warm. And then I like jump out and I'm like, this air feels so nice. And it's a little crazy, but I love it.
I love that. Like a little gratitude practice. Okay. Okay. Now, what's a quote or a piece of media that you've been thinking about lately?
I think the simplicity of success, I don't think this is a quote, but more of like a concept of if you do simple tasks every single day, you will become so successful, and success is not complex. Like, it's not complicated. You know the step you need to take to become more successful. I know that if I want to increase my PR at the gym, all I have to do is put in more reps. All I have to do is show up more. And it's like, you don't need a complicated strategy to grow on social media. You don't need a complicated business plan. You just need to take that one simple action to get yourself 1% forward. So now I try to live my life in that way of like, if I ever feel like, what should I do next? You know what to do next. You just got to take that step.
It really reminds me of this one quote: "Is the results that you want, or the results that you've been waiting for, is in the work that you're avoiding," which I feel like perfectly sums up what you're trying to say.
Is that from the War of Art?
Maybe I've just seen it going around, but I've never read War of Art, so probably
So
more
cool.
likely.
I love that.
Okay, now third question is: if you could interview one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
That's a great question. So interesting. I don't think I have anyone I would say specifically would want to interview, because I feel like if I wanted to interview someone, if they were alive, I would have emailed them already and asked to interview them. Like, honestly, I'm gonna put in the cheesy answer of, I love this interview with you. And like, honestly, been watching your content for so long that like literally I used to look at it and I was like, she's so cool. And like now this interview, I'm like, if it wasn't happening right now, I feel like last week I'd be like, you know what? I would like to talk to Vera on a podcast. Good thing you're alive. So that's a win.
But I love that answer. That's something I am aspiring to. Maybe a year from now, I'll have the same exact one as you. I love it. If they were alive, I would have emailed them already. Slade. Wow. Okay, now fourth is, you've already mentioned this. If you want to use the same one, feel free. But what's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, let's think. I'm trying to think how young I want to think back. You're moving fast enough. I think I've always been someone that moves quickly, but I think if I told my younger self, like, grades, they don't matter at the level you think they do. Even I would tell my current self, success is not the most important thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, how are your relationships? How are your family? And I think I would tell my younger self, because I've always been such a productivity person, such a self-improvement person. So I would tell my younger self that like, that is not the only purpose. Like, your purpose is fulfillment and like what makes you feel fulfilled. And a lot of times there's a healthy balance. So I think I would just tell my younger self to like live in that more balanced way, which is hard to take as someone younger, because, you know, at that stage you're like, oh, grades, they matter so much, or this matters so much. But fast forwarding back, my grandkids are not going to care that I got a 92 when I wish I got a 94. They don't care. They care that I'm like a kind person. And like, that's not something that takes this stress. Like, you don't have to get stressed out about, geesh, I need to be a kind person. It's like, no, that's something you just work on every day. Like, so that's what I would tell my younger self.
What about a piece of advice for your future self?
For my future self? It's crazy because I think I know where I'll be in a year from now, but past that I have no idea. So like, when I look at my future self, I feel like I just feel like your younger self like is wishing you the best. And honestly, like I'm so confident in the way the direction of my life is going, that I know that I'm gonna build a lifestyle I love. And it's like, I just need to, I think I would just tell my future self, like, I hope I have the same perspective as I have now of like, success isn't the most important thing necessarily. And it is having that balance. So I guess if I could send myself a postcard, like, I would just wonder, like, I would ask that person, maybe not give that person advice, but ask that like future version of myself, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what does that look like? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I'm doing career-wise. It doesn't matter what house I live in. It doesn't matter what car I drive. It matters, like, do you wake up and do you jump out of your sheets and are you saying today is a beautiful day? Because who cares what house I live in? Who cares what color my sheets are? It's like, do you wake up and feel amazing? I think I'd tell my like future self, like, does your life look like that? If so, like, yay, I'm cheering for you. If not, like, and I hope I wouldn't wake up in the future and it's not that, but if not, I'd be like, okay, get yourself a peaceful alarm clock and jump up and say, today is amazing.
It's like a fisherman anecdote.
Yeah, so true.
Perfect representation. Okay, now, sixth one is, what's one thing that you're grateful for today?
I am driving to see my friend at college tomorrow. And like I told you before this podcast interview, like I was supposed to be flying out to Dallas for this huge speaking event. And initially, when they canceled that last minute, I was a little bit like, okay, that's a little disappointing. But I know that opportunities like that will come back in a week from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now. So I'm just so grateful. Like literally, my friend texted me while I was on this podcast interview, and she's like, excited to see you tomorrow. So I'm really grateful to go see her tomorrow at college. And it's just so fun to like see how different people are working towards different goals. Cause like so many times I think so much in our own lives. Like I spend so much time with entrepreneurs and business owners that when I talk to my friends that are like working in engineering, I'm like, this is fascinating because there's so many bubbles that you don't usually talk to, and everyone's working towards something in one way or another. So I'm really grateful for like our plans we have for tomorrow, which I guess is a future gratefulness note, but I think it's going to be so much fun.
And I think you bring up such a great point of knowing where other people are at as well, because I feel like that enriches your own experience so much, and that gets you, like you said, because you're on Zoom calls all day with entrepreneurs, it definitely gets you out of your bubble. Like, hey, there's more to life than social media, digital marketing, growth, and revenue. Okay, and then final 7 of the success 7 is, where do you want to be 1 year from now? Because I think then you can listen back to this and like see how accurate your prediction was.
Oh yeah, that's fascinating. I'm gonna look at my wall because I have it written down. So like the number goals, which I don't really care about, but they're fun to work towards. So today is February 16th, 2024. So 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, 100,000 followers on TikTok. I don't care how many followers I have on Instagram because I never viewed that as a priority. I want to have I want to help 1,000 entrepreneurs grow their personal brands and increase their income. So my goal by the end of in a year from today is to have 1,000 people in my membership, the Creator Circle, and like I teach people how to do content repurposing inside that membership and how to content plan. So I want to have 1,000 people in that by the end of the year. And honestly, the YouTube metric of 100,000 subscribers, it doesn't matter. Like I know that means nothing more. I would love to hit that 1,000 number because I think like helping 1,000 entrepreneurs and business owners grow using content would be amazing. And then I think like I would view that as, you know what, this has been a transformational year. So social media growth aside, I think that doesn't matter, but that could be the vehicle that helps me reach 1,000 people inside my membership, because I do think it's one thing to watch people's content. That's great. But when you see a 30-second snippet of like whether people are watching you or me or other creators, that's helpful for 30 seconds, but it's more helpful to like actually dive into long form. That's why like when I watch like someone on YouTube, I like to go through and actually watch like 3 of their, like you need more exposure to get great results. So my goal is to help 1,000 people, because I could have 100,000 followers on TikTok, but that's not actually helping people in an in-depth way. Like if someone were to go through the resources, go through the mind maps I've built, like that actually changes someone's life. So I'd say like that would be the main goal. It'll be fascinating to listen back to this in 12 months to see if we surpass those members.
12 months from now, you're like, actually, I have 10,000 people. Why was I dreaming so small?
Yeah, that would be crazy. I also want to do like a huge speaking event, which was supposed to happen this weekend, but like we have 12 more months, and I think multiple of those will happen because I do think it's like a stepping stone. The hardest thing to land is the first one, and I think 12 months from now would be so cool to see like where that is. Also networking with more in-person creators, because it's one thing to see people on social media, it's another thing to meet people in person. I have way too many goals. There's like a whole list.
I love it. I'm so excited for all your progress. I'm going to be watching intently.
From the sidelines, it'll be fun. I can't wait to see where your accounts are in like 12 months. Like, oh my goodness.
Okay, and then final thing, where can people find you? Like everything. Give us everything.
Yeah, so you can find me on every platform at Maureen's Marketing, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And then for anyone that wants to work with me, I would say jump into the membership. That way we can get towards helping 1,000 people. This could be, maybe we sign 10 people from this. That's already closer to the goal. So I think that's where you can find me. And in order to find the membership, literally on any social media platform, it's linked. That's what I love about social media. It's so easy.
100%. Thank you so much for coming on, Maureen. I feel like I learned so much. I will definitely be replaying this.
Yeah, thank you, Vera. That was so much fun.
Thank you so much to Maureen for joining this podcast episode. She inspires me on the daily. I'm always watching what she's doing because I think she's absolutely killing it. Make sure to check out the description for all of her information. And if you're ready to take your social media growth and revenue to the next level, then be sure to click the link in the description that transfers you over to my website, and we'll get started right away, because social media is one of the coolest things probably ever, and I'm super excited to potentially help you and work with you. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and remember that new podcast episodes come out every Wednesday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye! I'll see you at the next one.
3, 2, 1. Launch to success with Vera V.